Welcome to Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, the go-to source for business leaders ready to supercharge company growth. I'm your host, Carrie Curran, and today's episode is Collapsing the Funnel, how to engage and convert customers with speed and scale. We're joined by Vivian Chang, direct-to-consumer and e-com marketing expert. In this episode, Vivian shares extensive experience in leading the direct-to-consumer function at Clorox, where she built successful subscription models for major brands like Brita and Burt's Bees. Vivian and I discuss the rapid shift direct-to-consumer brands must make to stay competitive in today's fast-paced market. Learn how to collapse the marketing funnel, engage customers across platforms, and use data to accelerate growth. Let's go. So welcome, Vivian. Please introduce yourself and share a bit about your extensive expertise.
Hi, Carrie. I'm so happy to be here today. So I most recently helped to build and then lead the direct-to-consumer function at Clorox Company. And underneath Clorox, not everyone knows this, actually has a wide variety of different brands. For example, we ran direct-to-consumer for Burt's Bees, launched the capability to enable subscriptions for Brita water filters, also for the cleaning wipes and bleach brand, as well as supplements. So a lot of different kind of industries and categories, different types of audiences, but at the core was figuring out a new way for a legacy CPG business to connect to the consumers. And my career actually has primarily been about helping brands in consumer-facing spaces take advantage of new technologies, new approaches to scale and connect in a different and efficient way. So things like launching a mobile app way back in the day with Retail Me Not, taking advantage of programmatic in-housing efficiencies, and doing things like bringing brand and performance blended ROAS together to evaluate media spends and marketing attribution. 7 or 8 years ago now it's commonplace, but at the time it was new approaches. And so it's been a really fun journey to get to kind of direct to consumer and e-commerce, this blending of more of the marketing side, but also the actual nuts and bolts of getting to a transaction with a consumer.
Excellent. And now you're, as a consultant, helping multiple brands move into the more modern new ways of marketing.
Yes, that's right. And yes, after spending a lot of time in big Fortune 500 company, I'm really excited just about new founders and startup ideas and helping to bring a little bit of my CPG direct-to-consumer experience to figure out how to scale early stage businesses.
Yeah, no, but well, thank you for joining. I'm excited to have you today. So, we talked a bit about how D2C brands need to move faster and kind of moving out of old ways to new ways of doing this. So, talk a bit about just the more modern approach for a go-to-market and e-commerce plan for the direct-to-consumer brands.
Sure. I'd say not even just direct to consumer, but taking a bit of a larger step back, thinking about how marketing has been done. It for a long time has been about traditional marketing funnel. How do you bring a certain consumers from awareness, consideration, purchase, and a lot of it has been focused on audience personas, right? Who are the 2 or 3 target audience groups that we want to go after? I'd say with new technologies and the prevalence of social and ways to really get one-to-one to consumers, that's really changed. And I don't know that all brands have made that switch in how they're doing planning. And so my recommendation for brands now is actually, instead of creating these fairly static personas, is to use kind of market research, but focus on your content, and telling the story about the product and the different use cases, the different benefits to various audiences, letting the algorithms that are out there kind of find the target audience, but giving them, something like 5 to 10 very different creative iterations that all bring your product to life, and mining the data kind of post campaign to identify what are those different audience groups that you have, those different audience targets.
Yeah, no, it sounds so smart and just efficient, like we were saying, to get to market faster. But I also love the aspect of aligning to customer needs. We've all seen that meme that shows Ozzy Osbourne and Prince Charles. They fit the same target demographic, but they're two very different people. So it does feel a lot more engaging for the to align with the kind of needs of your consumers versus trying to assume that you know everything about them based on the data points and the personas.
Yeah.
So one of the things I found so interesting was how you often find that the kind of the data or the needs and solutions that the products find through customer research, and that's also, there's newer ways to do that as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think of this almost like the democratization, can't say that word, democratization of insights and research. So
Yeah.
again, traditionally have very large formalized insights functions that are out there doing the focus groups, doing the market research, synthesizing that back and bringing it back to the brand and the marketing teams to do something about. I think today there's data everywhere. There's actually probably too much data for us to make use of. But in that, there's a lot of good nuggets if you know where to look. So we already talked about using post-campaign media reporting data to look at what are the demographics or psychographics of your audience that's responding versus not responding. Others have new, like more one-to-one ways of getting insights from consumers. So for example, Verve, which I was introduced to recently, they allow consumers to actually give video feedback about a product. So you think about how valuable that is when you used to have to bring 30 people into a room, do focus groups. You only get a small segment of real consumer data. Now you could easily have hundreds of thousands of insights utilizing an AI layer to mine what are the real important takeaways from that. And you can start to think about like what is the new way of getting consumer insights. There's also really small things. So for example, with Burt's Bees, we obviously have really loyal consumers. And so I got a ton of interest when we set up the SMS channel and program. And we basically asked, instead of using SMS as a push channel where we're just talking about new products or promotions, what if we actually used it to start surveying consumers, asking them what they want, asking them more about themselves? And we saw tremendous engagement. And so, of course, that both enhances the consumer data that you know about someone at a true one-to-one basis. But then on the other side, we're able to kind of seed what are early R&D product innovation ideas, what are people excited about, what are their favorite products that they're looking forward to, right? And so you just start to say like how you can get data and insights and kind of research from lots of different places.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And I think too that the social listening aspect is so key as well, kind of getting into that, hearing what the needs are, and especially feedback on the product once it's live.
Yeah,
And then we
exactly.
also
And
yeah, so
I
go ahead.
think trend sensing is one of those things. Like speed to market is tremendously important now for brands, right?
Yeah.
In the supplement space, all of a sudden maybe turmeric or ashwagandha becomes a trendy ingredient. You want to
Yeah.
be one of the brands who's like, hey, we have a product as people are first hearing about it. And so social listening and even mining things like Amazon searches, Google searches
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
tremendous ways of getting a finger on the pulse of what people are talking about.
This podcast is brought to you by Break Room Labs. Break Room Lab gummies for energy and focus feature an optimized blend of low caffeine, vitamin B12, and nootropics to refresh your mind and body in as little as 5 minutes. Low sugar, tasty, and convenient. Get 20% off when you visit breakroomlabs.com.
I loved your suggestion as well for when brands can't afford a Verve partner, just the interviewing the people you know and the kind of in your network and your friends and family and getting their take on it as well. I think wherever you can get it, that those different insights are super valuable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, what I love about this approach as well is, as you called it, like collapsing the funnel or kind of backing into and collapsing the funnel, especially when budgets are tighter and every dollar needs to work harder. So once you have the data, the insights, like talk a bit of how you kind of use that content to really connect with the consumers.
Yeah. I love actually what you were just saying of, friends and family are just as valuable as a source of inspiration, because the real goal is just to get lots of
Yeah.
different forms of content, preferably in video format, that
Mhm.
show a consumer why your product is good, why it fits into their lives, in a very kind of personable one-to-one way. So the creative and the content really is an anchor point of how to build effective marketing plans today.
Mhm.
I think the other piece of it is thinking about how to utilize similar content in lots of different formats, right? And
Yeah.
so I think
Yeah.
the challenge often is you build separate, you have separate teams running, and so you have separate content for Amazon versus what's going to a retailer versus what's on a
Mhm.
D2C website, versus there's so much more efficiency gain when you focus on similar set of products that you're pushing at a seasonal period, and you have cohesive storytelling against it,
Yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
yeah, sometimes I think people's concerns are, well, what if all these different, 5 to 10 use cases that I'm showing are disjointed? Well, there is still the importance of an overarching brand layer, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
same look and feel, not saying, go out there and create things that don't fit together, because you want a cohesive through line for that consumer, so that regardless of where they're saying a message, whether it's organic or paid, and then where they're shopping,
Yeah.
they know all of those are contributing to
Mhm.
that brand awareness, right? I think it takes something like 10 to 15 touch points often for someone to be ready to convert. But you also are saying now with influencers and with social commerce, maybe it's just one or two really good creative and someone's ready to
Mhm.
purchase right
Yeah.
away. So you have to get both the mechanics right to allow that and have that be a seamless experience, and also
Mhm.
have that storytelling.
Yeah. Well, and that's where it goes into like collapsing the funnel, right? Really good content can be that introducer to build awareness and give enough information and have the right call to action, whether it's all at the first kind of the first time the consumer sees it, or just to your point, like the familiarity that it builds. But you can operate, the consumer can respond a lot more quickly to that data. And
Mm-hmm.
so speaking of data, you were talking about too, like you can move more quickly when you're operating with these shorter kind of direct response, or direct response in the way that you're getting data back more quickly. So talk about the importance of the data layer and enabling this.
Yeah. One point before I forget it earlier about kind of collapsing the funnel, because I think sometimes, and it happened to us, is the trap is you're only thinking about your advertising creative in one silo,
Right.
and then the
Yeah.
website and your PDP experience is completely separate. Where we really saw the most efficiency and the strongest results is when it really was thinking about it from the consumer journey perspective of what is the ad, what kind of landing page or website experience does it land to,
Yeah.
and then if you can get email or an SMS number, then like continuing on that conversation.
Yeah.
That, I think every day, us as consumers, that's what we want.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, that's also how you get the best kind of lifetime value and loyalty for your brands.
Yeah.
On the data side, I think everything we've talked about right now has data behind it, essentially, right? All of your media campaigns, you can look at clicks and heat maps on how someone navigates your website, your landing pages. Certainly open rates and engagement rates as you move into your own channels. I think it really is about how are you enhancing what you know about the consumer? So thinking about the first party data, what are the attributes that you're continually adding to that pool of knowledge? And then two, making sure that you're answering your key questions. So again, is it helping you understand your audience better? Where are consumers getting stuck in the process? And then really third, it's like, how do we use that data as part of the creative process to brainstorm new content angles or build new landing pages, because there seems to be a lot of interest there. Or how are we engaging with that consumer one-to-one through email or through SMS? And so, I think having a strong foundational data layer really enables all of the kind of creativity and kind of the fun part of marketing and storytelling about the brands.
No, I love that. And you're saying too, it's data, it's science, but it's also your gut on kind of what the data is telling you, and how you should pivot based on what the data is telling you is resonating with your audiences.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think I'm a big, especially as you're figuring out what works. I'm a huge believer in yes, look at the data, but don't wait for the data to be like definitive before you go out and try things. In digital today, it's pretty easy to put mock examples out into consumers, or just to ask the questions one-on-one and start to get some validation. So it's sometimes uncomfortable, I think, for people to have to now make decisions that are not locked tight with data. But I think that's the art of marketing, right? It's like that science plus that gut and intuition.
Yeah, no, it's also smart. And then in addition to kind of meeting the consumer where they are in terms of their needs and what's going to resonate, you also talked about, being there on the multiple places where the consumer can purchase, because that's not only that the consumer journey is no longer linear, but the choose your own adventure of where they go to purchase. Talk about how you build that into your strategy.
Yeah, I think that is a real challenge for brands today. It's omnichannel, in that omnichannel being we're transaction agnostic. And this was one of the big shifts that we made at Clorox, actually. Very heavy in-store retail, wholesale model, pivoting to consumers now want the convenience of Amazon. They want pickup in store at Target. They want direct to consumer for the subscription products, so they don't have to think about it. And oh, by the way, there's Instacart, and then there's marketplaces, and there's so many different places for consumers. So again, I think the real key, and it's sometimes more organizationally challenging, even though it feels like a really obvious idea, is keeping the consumer at the center and having that through line of following him or her through all of it. What what are the messages that they're getting? What are the products that they're being recommended? And making sure that that is one cohesive story, that it's not like they're getting different product, different promotions and pricing everywhere they turn, right? Or,
Right.
No one needs to see 5 different, cleaning options for Clorox versus, just make it easy and tell me this is the one that's going to be efficient for me when I'm, cleaning the kitchen, right? So there's, both a technology, a data, but oftentimes just making sure that people are talking internally when you go through that marketing planning process, and starting early so that it is planned cohesively at the top before you get into all of the execution details further down.
Right. No, it's that makes so much sense. And going back to what you said earlier about collecting phone numbers and emails and your SMS strategy with Burt's Bees, the loyalty part of the consumer loop is, I think, an underinvested area as well. They always say it costs, 10x to get a new customer versus keeping your existing customers. So I love that you've incorporated that kind of into the customer strategy. And I guess that ties with keeping the customer at the center.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's really interesting. There's research out there for especially Gen Z audiences who, notoriously are allergic to ads and don't want to be sold to. But they're really actually interested in co-creating with brands, right? Picking brands that they feel like is a part of their value system, represents who they are, and they actually really want to give feedback. And so, I think brands that capitalize on that, I think Elf is a great brand that does that, right? Taking real user feedback and actually turning it into products that you could then buy. I think those are the types of things that brands now need to do to really win that loyalty and, win the long-term kind of success.
Yeah, for sure. And so this has been super helpful and informative, Vivian. Thank you so much. So many good points here of what brands should be thinking about to move more quickly and engage more strongly with their consumers, again, to drive that sale and revenue. So thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you can join us again soon.
Sure. Thank you. It was fun to chat with you.
Too, always. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast. If you need help with your direct-to-consumer e-commerce business growth, visit our website, revenuebasedmarketing.com. Our next episode is one you won't want to miss, called Revolutionize Your Growth Strategy, the Infinite Power of Original Research. Don't forget to subscribe to Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, for more strategies to skyrocket your company's growth.